Welcome to the Mark Attwood Show, Adventures in the Cosmic Suit. Before I start this episode, please look at the Linktree link that's going across the video. Sign up to my email list. I've already had one YouTube channel taken down, and that gives you links to everything to do with the show. So today, I've called this show, What is Your Straw Man and Why is it Important? And I'm joined by the lovely Peter. Hello, Peter. How are you?
I am great. Thank you very much. How are you?
Very good, thank you. I really appreciate you coming on and talking about this, because I watched a few of your videos last week and I was like, I need to talk to this guy, because I learned about the straw man quite a number of years ago, and I did actually use some common law to get out and pay my TV license. But then I found that the common law stuff, it kind of becomes like one of those things that I just kept putting off and putting off and putting off. And then I saw your video and I was like, I've got to get onto this, because I'm all about sovereignty, and this is all about sovereignty. So why don't you start by telling us a bit about yourself and how you got to the point where you're now online talking about straw men?
Well, I'll not go back through everything, but like we were sort of like running a couple of different businesses a while ago. One of them was like a property development business. So we ended up, owning quite a lot of property all around the UK and the United States. And this was like 2006, 5, 6, 7. Now, if anybody can remember that far back, like, what happened, there was obviously like a cataclysmic property drop and a bubble burst, or whatever you want to call it. Basically, the banks ripped everybody off, is the truth of what happened. And everything just collapsed inwards. We were running our like property business anyway, like on a model, I suppose you could call it that was taught, whereas like everything was refinancing, move on to the next one, refinance, move on to the next one, with the idea of like, property values would go up and up and up and up and up and everything. And then they just pulled the plug, didn't they, basically? So like everything crashed down. And I mean, in a lot of ways, it's like I just look, I'm just going to take this on the chin and move on. I'm getting out of here, and that was it. We lost literally everything. We had well over £1 million worth of property gone in a week. But we lost our house as well where we live. But like other people I know, like I don't know, maybe they took it worse. They just seemed to crumble and lose everything. And it was just like looking back, I'm thinking, this is weird. It's not just criminal, but how can they get away with this then? How do you actually do that? And then you got to look more and more at everything. And it was common law was the first thing I was looking at, but I could see that there was like holes in there bigger than a mask. Like and it's like all right, okay, getting to be what do you call it, like sovereign is one thing, but and then you're looking at Article 61 and then the whole common law thing compared, and then trying to work out the difference between like common law and what a lot of people will call maritime law.
Sorry, what's Article 61?
Oh, okay, I'm sorry, I'm presuming Article 61 is supposedly, right, this it's not, I don't run after Article 61 or proclaim it, and I certainly haven't signed the oath to it because it's got too many holes in. What it is it's saying that the barons of England are rebelling against the crown because of treason. The crown of England, i.e. Queen Elizabeth, is committing treason against the people under the Magna Carta on Article 61. That's what that is. So what it is, a lot of people jumped on this thing. I can't remember. I don't want to tag people's names to anything, but anyway, they were trying to push it forward to say, well, look, all the people in England should be in rebellion and all sign the oath to Article 61, and everyone basically stop paying all your bills and everyone will stand together. And that's basically, what that was. But the barons apparently had signed it as well. But what I do see is like all of the barons in England are still incredibly wealthy, and they're still collecting all their taxes and paying the Queen her share. So I cannot see how they're part of Article 61 at all. and they leave it all to like the common man in the street, the ones that actually get arrested and dragged off to prison. And I do know a few people who got took to prison for not paying their poll tax and whatnot. So certainly not like the supportive thing. So that's what the Article 61 is. It's coming under common law. That's
okay.
Basically what it was.
Thanks for explaining that.
Yeah. So I just word and think like people understand. So I get carried away.
That's why I got you on, because I was watching one of your videos going, I don't know what that means. I don't know what that means.
Yeah, I mean, like the thing is, once you give this type of information, some of it is just like, giving them the information creates about 100 questions.
Yeah. Well, that's what it is. Keep it really, really simple. So you went through the same shit that I did, because I had a property company back in 2007 as well. And it was a buy-to-let business. But I also had a national hire business in the UK, and we got absolutely hammered because a lot of our clients were construction companies, and they all closed down their sites overnight. So they had loads of equipment on hire all over the country, and I was running around the country as the founder of this company, going into sites and climbing up high. I remember one day I climbed up this high rises to take off these ventilators, and it was just me and one of the guys that worked with me, and it was really hard. And then the bank decided to close the whole thing down on us, and it was like the walls came in really quickly, and I ended up getting an investor, which is a whole other story. But so that company is still going and surviving, but now without me. And it was during the aftermath of that we realized that the banks were lying through their teeth about everything. I've got so many bank stories. I'll just rattle off the ones off the top of my head. I took NatWest to the steps of the court 3 times. And then I realized how deeply entrenched the solicitors are, because the solicitor, in this particular case, this solicitor stole money from us. And the only way I could get the money back is because I'm an internet marketing expert. I put the true story up. So if anybody found their name, they would find the true story. And this solicitor threatened us with slander. And I said, it's not slander because it's true. A week later, we had the money. There was another instance when Lloyd's TSB stole 200,000 quid off us from the credit card payments and refused to give it to us. And I had to use the same technique to get the money off them. They nearly closed us down so many times. Also, there was like an overdraft facility of about 5,000. And then they said, like, a few months later, it was 30,000. And then we said, well, where's the document that was signed? And they sent us this document. My wife at the time had signed it, but it was on a day she was riding a horse on a beach in Ireland. She couldn't possibly have signed it that day. So they were lying through their teeth. So I just want to bring that up for people that don't realize how bad the banks are. They're totally, totally in cahoots with all of this. And that was a manufactured, as all of these recessions are manufactured. And this got, and I got very, very cross about, and I was waking up myself, which is why I ended up using an amazing line, a common law line that got a bailiff to leave my property, which was, I revoke your implied right of entrance to this property. As soon as I said that, he moved. And that was the first day I was like, whoa, there's some power here. And I didn't realize I had. So you went through this process and just ended up finding out about common law. Is that what happened with you? And then people wanted to know more about it, and now you're teaching people. Is that the whole story? Before we go on,
kind of, but like the really, it's not common law that I actually talk about, though. It's contract law.
Okay.
Because there's people think you've got common law and maritime law, and that all of, like, say for instance, the police are using maritime law, and then but you try and fight them with common law. But it's not really like that, because everything that we do is common law. If you murder somebody, you are going to get charged with murder under common law. That's what it will be.
Gotcha.
If you get caught stealing something, the courts will charge you with theft under common law. All right. And the common law comes from, imagine you've got like the laws that starts up here. This is like natural law, God's law, if you want to call it that. All right. So you've got like the 10 commandments: thou shalt not kill, thou shalt not steal, or like whatever it is. You won't give false witness, which means you can't lie. And then you have underneath this common law, which is law made by man, which is how society lives. And it'll kind of change depending on how you go through. Obviously we don't ride around. Well, not everyone on donkeys anymore. So, but like, you know, the law will relate to that on a common law level, and it's called common because in England, especially where it came from, is I think it was King Henry. He made it common throughout the land that would all be the same law. So you wouldn't have one sort of like lord of the manor over there, and this is my law, and then you cross over the border of a county and you're breaking the law, you're not breaking there. So he made it common law, and that's where the term comes from. But the so the difference and what confuses people is it's like going to it's going to statute, okay, statutory legislation. That is what everyone's living under. Okay, now if you there's three centers. Now you probably know most of it, but it goes back so long, so many thousands of years, and it's all to do with the Pope and the Vatican, and going even back to the Roman Empire. You know, Julius Caesar type Roman Empire.
All roads lead back to Rome.
They certainly do.
Mm.
They absolutely do. And the thing is that when the Roman Empire was starting to collapse, obviously it just got too big, but it was financed. And who financed all of their wars? The Vatican. Okay, so when you'll hear in the terms of the language that the Roman Empire, all of a sudden, right, start getting called the Holy Roman Empire. And the Pope and the Vatican is the head of the Holy Roman Empire. So the Roman Empire, as from the city of Rome, has disappeared, and now it's run from the Vatican. Okay, so and it was taken over because they owed all of the money, the debt, to the Vatican, because the Vatican Bank had loaned them all the money to fight the wars.
So it was a corporate takeover.
Exactly, 100%. So, but the thing is that the Roman Empire, sorry, the Holy Roman Empire or the Vatican, they were not managed or ran or operated by, what would you call them, good people, holy people. You know, they're all coming from. It is biblical though, so I'll give them that. We can't lie about that bit. It is biblical. So they're coming from the Khazarians.
Well, right? I was going to mention the Khazarians and the Phoenicians. I'm glad you brought them up.
Yeah, well, that's where it's come from. So you're taking it back from the Khazarians, where you had Phoenicians, which moved to Venice and to control the Vatican. But before the Phoenicians, they had the Khazarians. Right, it's the same people. It's just they're trying to sneak across this way. And before them, you're going all the way back to what we call the Canaanites. Yeah. So the Canaanites from Cana was literally from the Bible, whereas you know, Cain eating his brother, killing and eating his brother Abel. So this is where, you know, follow that line down there.
That's the where the word cannibal comes from.
Exactly, Cain ate Abel. Exactly. So this is the actual, what would you call it? The roots then of this blood cult that we're still dealing with now.
Yeah, 100%.
So take it from there. Well, we just went backwards, but up to the you know, the Vatican. So now you've got this like horrendous group of evil people that want to spread it further west towards us. So what they're doing is that they're like, you know, pushing their, what would you call it, their family, all right, into the European sort of banking places where they can, because they've learned how to use money through the Knights Templar.
Yeah. Who were expert bankers, weren't they?
Yeah. Yeah. And they kind of discovered it because of them trying to supposedly look after pilgrims going through to the Holy Land. They would look after their money with a promissory note, which we still use today.
And this is why the King of France ordered them to be executed, because they became so powerful so quickly, didn't they?
Well, they owed him too much money. He owed them too much money.
Yeah.
So he conspired with the Pope, right, to get rid of them, but they only got rid of certain ones that the Pope wanted rid of. They kept others. So even today, you've still got the Knights Temple, which is in the center of the city of London. I mean, the square mile city, not like the big city.
Yeah.
And that still rules everything. So from looking on, and this is all to do with what we're talking about. It's all tied together.
Yeah.
So you have like the Vatican now, which is let's just say it is still powerful, and that's there. And then on the other side, you've got the City of London. All right, now it might be part of with the Queen, but it's all from the City of London.
Yep.
So there is a guy called the Remembrancer. It's a very strange word.
Mm.
And he dresses in funny clothes, and he sits in the House of Commons and the House of Lords. No one else is allowed to do that.
I've never heard of him. That's interesting.
He's got a funny big wig. He looks, when you see it like an old-fashioned judge, and got the red and black robes, not just black. He's called the Remembrancer. Now, if you Google him, you can find several different things out about it, but none of it is true. But he's got the ear of everyone and the Queen. Everything. He's in everything. So he's more than likely the one that's tied into the the Templar church, which it is a church in the centre of London. The Temple Bar, they call it, which is where all of the solicitors and the lawyers and everything else are actually have to pass the bar.
Yeah.
In the Temple Bar, and they have to swear allegiance to the Temple Bar, which is that chapel.
Hence why that solicitor stole all my money and didn't give a shit, because that's their allegiance is to that, not to us.
Not to you, not at all. Their sworn allegiance. I've just been taught. Someone's just messaged me about a case that's going on against, the individuals in the government. Trying to take
Michael Bernicia.
Yeah, Benicia. Yeah.
Is it Benicia? Yeah.
But the case and the evidence is amazing and fantastic. But what you're doing is you're actually asking the Temple Bar
I know.
to prosecute itself.
I know. That crossed my mind when I saw the last podcast with Mark Devlin, and I was like, you can't use these people to defend, to do this case, because the other thing is I've been involved in lots of legal cases over the years, and I've seen how these guys will act as if they're on your side all the way through, but then they completely dismantle a case if it goes against, because they've got another objective that you don't know about.
Mm-hmm. Well, the objective of it is your CQV trust. That is the objective. They want to dip into that trust. And so when you have to pay them, win or lose. It's the only profession really they get paid to lose, isn't it? Really,
Yeah.
So you pay them a fortune, but when they're losing, they've dipped into your SESTI-QV trust.
What is that?
Well,
say the word again, because I didn't quite catch it.
SESTI-QV. Right now, there's different sort of like, some people pronounce it different. That's the way I'm just going to say it. Okay. But what's happened is it's coming from the Vatican, and this is money which is tied into your birth certificate, right? But the SESTI-QV trust happened before they did the birth certificate, so I'll explain where it's come from. So there's 3 SESTI-QV trusts, 3 of them. The first one, right, that was set up in 1455. SESTI-QV trust. Now, SESTI is Latin for 6, and there's 3 of them. So you can guess where this is going. So the first one, it was set up by, what's his name again? It's Pope Nicholas V, and they called it the Romanus Pontifex is what they called it, and it was a SESTI-QV trust. So basically, what they did is they said the Vatican, from this papal bull, you heard of a papal bull? When the Pope gives an order, they call it a papal bull. They own the whole world. All land belongs to the Vatican, everywhere. And that's what that first SESTI-QV trust was. That was what it basically was. So then, you ever heard the term "you're lost at sea"?
Yep.
That declared everyone was lost at sea because they're never allowed to own any land. Okay. So the second one, and it was called a crown. So they had a crown, and if you Google pictures, the 3 crowns, or the 3 papal crowns, it's about this tall, because they put the first crown, second crown, and the third one, and it's the 3 crowns. So the SESTI-QV trust, they also call a crown. So the first one was in 1455, right, when you lost all of your land. The second one, that there was in 1481, and that was Pope Sixtus. It's hard to say that. Pope Sixtus. And when he set that one up, that next papal bull, which is the second, crown and the second Sisti QV trust, that made everyone a slave of Rome. So the first Sisti QV trust, that took all of the land. The second one, that took all of the bodies, the people. And then did the third one, right, which is in 1531. And this is probably the worst one in my opinion, right? That was set up when they set up the baptism.
Yeah.
So through the baptism, they actually also took everybody's soul.
Yeah.
So they took your land, they took your body, and the third one took your soul. That's how it worked. That's in their mind. This is what they were doing.
Nice people.
But there's also an act in England called the Sisti QV Act. So it ties it all the way back, you know, and people deny this. You speak to anyone about this and say, oh, you just made it up. You know, I mean, no, this is all documented. Now, the Sisti QV Act was in 1666.
Let me guess, on the 6th of June.
I'm not sure of that date.
At 6 a.m. A bit like D-Day. D-Day was the 6th of June at 6 a.m.
But also, what was the other event that happened in 1666?
The Fire of London.
Great Fire of London. Okay. The Great Babylon Sacrifice.
Yeah.
All right. So they set fire to London on purpose.
Yeah.
All right. I wasn't there, so I can't swear to it, but I'm telling you, that's what happened.
Yeah.
And so they made sure everyone was panicking about that when they passed this act, so no one would pay attention to. They just passed the act.
You mean it was a false flag?
False flag. Yeah. And then they blamed this poor guy called Thomas Fainall, who was a baker in Pudding Lane.
They're pretty good at it. They've been doing this a long time.
Exactly. I was just telling someone, they were talking about false flags and how it's new. I guess it's not new. You know, this is something they've been practicing for thousands of years, you know. But they passed this act, and what that did, that was in England, and that claimed everybody's land and everybody's body, and everyone in England was declared dead at sea. So that on that act there, so that literally when you were born, you had 7 years to claim your estate, and if you didn't claim your estate in 7 years, then you were officially dead, and the Crown Corporation, not the Queen, right? The Crown Corporation could take everything out of your estate. Now, this is the Sisti QV Trust. So when you're born in any nation, let's just say England, we're in England, then you are entitled to a percentage of the wealth of that nation. So what they did is they actually declared the Sisti QV Trust, so you were all dead, so you weren't allowed nothing. So that's basically what it's for. That's the whole purpose behind it. So moving on.
This 7 years. This 7 years that you had to claim it, I assume they never told anybody they had 7 years to claim it. Well,
that's the catch, isn't it? So we're going to give you it there if you actually request it, but we're not telling you you've got it, and we're not telling you how to request it.
Yeah.
You know? So if you move on to modern times now, what they've done is, like, obviously they were very, very what would you put, jealous of, like, America. Obviously, we're talking about when you're moving over to America, they've gone further west, they've actually got this new land, and, like, no, they want it. And remember, it was set up originally as an independent nation. They actually did not get any bankers, right, from the Rothschild family in there. So they were very peeved at that.
Well, the Pilgrim Fathers, weren't they running away from Britain because of this? It wasn't just exactly. It was because of this, wasn't it?
Freedom.
Yeah.
Freedom. So, you know, when they've went there, but they've been, and there was, I think it was Jefferson as well, I think, actually kicked them out. There's two different names. I'm trying to think of the third one as well, which I've never heard of before. You know, where you can, you know, even when we're here, we know some presidents' names from history. You know, you're going to know Lincoln and everything. But there was one, I've never heard of his name. He actually got rid of the central bank, the Rothschild bank, kicked them out of America, and died very shortly after.
Weird, that.
Assassinated. Yeah, you know. So now, obviously, what they've done is they've pushed it until they've got the central bank set up in America as well now. But when we're looking at anybody that's actually tried to fight the central bank in America has ended up the same way, right, from Kennedy. He tried to set up. He actually printed U.S. notes tied to gold.
Yep.
Killed him.
Boom.
You know. And Lincoln, he actually tried to do the same.
Yeah.
And so this other guy, and I'll have to find his name. I've wrote it down. You know, it's not a memorable name, but I'll have to remember that one. It's good when you know things that other people don't know, so I'll forget that name. But yeah, every time there's three of them that they killed every single one that tried to go against the central bank.
Yeah.
In the 30s, you know, we were just talking about like that crash that happened that we were both part of in 2006, 7, and 8. They did the same in the 30s.
Yep. 1929.
Completely man-made. They just, and what they've done is they actually took all the gold. They said, right, everybody has to pay the gold back in America.
That was Roosevelt, wasn't it?
Yeah. And if you didn't give your gold back, right, you were fined. I mean, you've got to think all them years back, $10,000 and go to prison. You know, so they confiscated all of the gold, or obviously, I doubt they would have got everything, but people probably buried it somewhere and then forgot. Well, but and what they've done is that's when they set up like the fiat currency, so that it was valued with nothing. So as we have it now, whenever they want, they just press a button and there's £1 million from nowhere, which has got zero value, and then all of a sudden the whole country is in debt, which is how we're actually held on the SISTIQV trust now, right? So we are actually used as collateral, our bodies, to the central bank. So like the UK government is completely bankrupt, has been for a very long time, and as is from 1938, the US government has been bankrupt. So they signed over everybody's life to the central bankers as collateral against that debt. And it's a debt, obviously, because they go ping, there's another 10 billion, ping, and another one, and they're charging interest on something that doesn't exist. So that debt can never disappear. You can't pay it back because the interest rate alone is like more than what they could actually pay back. And how would they ever pay it back?
And it's worth pointing out, I think, and excuse me if you're going to say this anyway, but in 1871, America was corporatized. The United States of America Corporation was created in the same way as the UK was a corporation, and presumably pretty much every country in Europe was incorporated. The central banks themselves are not owned by government or the people; they're all privately owned. But you might know this better than me, but between 1871 and 1913, which is when the Federal Reserve was taken over by the 13 families, I believe, when they did the Titanic false flag, but it actually killed all the people that were against what they wanted to do.
Exactly.
You know, have you ever read G. Edward Griffin's book? I bet you have, The Creature from Jekyll Island.
No, you were talking about that. I was watching you talking about that, and I was thinking I have to read that book. But,
Yeah,
remember what show you were on?
He wrote that in the 60s.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, he's still going. He's about 81 now. I've tried to get him on the show to talk about it, but he's not responded yet. So this, you know, everything's manipulated. Money is created out of thin air. We are dead at sea, and people don't really understand this. That's why I really want to make this video for people that really don't understand any of this, because the straw man concept, it took me a while to get my head around it years ago, and I'm not sure I've still got it. And I know that this is about contracts. I was having a conversation this morning about contracts between the police and people and everything else. So all of this is really, really relevant to now and what we're going on now. In fact, it's all about this, really, isn't it?
Everything. This is all part of the plan. But let's if we go back to the 30s when they actually done this. Now, before the 30s, when people were being born, you didn't get registered. What happened is you would get put into, your name would get put into a family Bible, and it would record, oh, such and such born on such a day, and it was kept in the big Bible in a chapel somewhere, something in your village or town or whatever.
I've got one of those from the 1700s upstairs from my village in Northamptonshire.
Brilliant.
All the names of people that were born written in it.
Oh, that's fantastic. I'll have to see that. I'd love to see that.
Oh, yeah, I'll get it. Carry on.
Yeah. Anyway, so what they've done is they actually put it to everybody that you all have to now register the birth. You have to register a birth with the government. Now, in America, especially, what they did is they said anyone who registers the birth with the government will get, I think it was 6 months pay, maternity pay. So you get 6 months leave with pay, which had never ever happened before. It's called compelled benefit. So you've actually done a contract with them, and
It's
you
called a
can't
bribe.
back out.
That's another word for a bribe, isn't it?
Yeah, you know what I mean. Like they're calling them, what is it, furlough now, isn't it?
Yeah, same thing. Exactly the same thing.
I mean, come on, you know. So yeah, so that and I encouraged everyone to sign the birth certificate, and now they tell everyone it's the law,
Mm.
and it's not the law at all, you know. And this is where we're really starting to get the separation between lawful and legal.
Mm.
All right, this is where it crosses over, which is what people get themselves into trouble with on common law. You know, lawful and legal are completely different, and they're trying to use the law when they haven't got the law on their side. I'll explain a bit later, but on the creation of the birth certificate, which was come out of the blue, you know, it's like people don't understand it. It was just invented like in the 30s. They didn't have them before, so why did they need them now? So what they did is when you get your birth certificate, right, you don't get a birth certificate, you get a copy of an entry of birth. It's what's written on the top, a copy of an entry of birth. And it's got the certificate number on, and it even says on the bottom, you cannot use this for ID purposes. So you just have a copy of an entry. You don't even have a copy of the certificate. So what they do is when your parents go and they call it inform on you, so they are classed as an informant, and they inform the government of your birth, and they sign that birth certificate, and you're born. What are you born in? The hospital, what was it called?
Ward.
The hospital ward. They have signed you as a ward of state, so the state now owns that baby. Right? Every single child is owned by the state. You have no parental rights over any child you've signed a birth certificate for. Okay? So that is why you'll see the authorities can come and take your children off you anytime they want. Now, this woman, I've done tons and tons of different courses on this and studied with loads of different people. And there's one woman, she was doing a seminar in England. Well, she travels between England, South America, and Florida. But she was doing a seminar and saying this about like the state own your children and they'll come and take them anytime you want. And there was a policeman in the audience. And after she'd finished, he went up to see her and he said, I can guarantee you're telling the truth because I've just been on a job. And he said it was like really upsetting for me. I hated it. We had to go and take these children from this mother. Someone had reported them, said that she wasn't looking after them properly. So they went to take the 3 children. They could only take 2 because the third one, the youngest one, she hadn't put a birth certificate on. They couldn't touch it. Couldn't touch the baby, you know, that sounds horrible, but they couldn't touch the third child because there was no birth certificates. They didn't own it. They didn't have the ward, you know. But also when they're doing this, they take over the ownership, is what it literally is. They set up another birth certificate from the live birth record, and that becomes your birth certificate, which gets converted into a bond. Now, there's different sort of like scenarios. Some people say it depends on the weight of the baby, and they'll give it so much gold. It's not real gold nowadays. It's a button press value. So there's like £10,000 put into a bond, and it gets invested. This is the CQV Trust. CQV Trust. Now this is worldwide. Worldwide. So what happens is when you get the because on my birth certificate it's fallen to pieces. I've had it for a long time. So they write on it like the name of the baby or whatever it is, and it's just written in small letters, Peter. But when they do it and they convert the live birth record to a birth certificate, it goes full capitals. This is what people will call a straw man. Its proper name is a legal fiction. So they have created a legal fiction, which is a corporation or a limited company, whichever way you want to talk about it, whatever country you live in. So that's what they've done. So there's literally two of you from birth. So they've got the corporation, which is the capital letters, and then they have like the real life you, which you don't use capital letters. You know, when you go to school and you're learning how to read and write, they don't tell you to write your name in full capitals because it's not grammatical, it's not correct, so they wouldn't do that.
But whenever the government writes to you, it's in capital letters.
Yeah, why are they doing that?
Because they're not talking to you; they're talking to your fiction.
Why? Why are they doing that? What you just told me? What are they? You just told me the US and the UK were
corporations.
Corporations. A corporation legally cannot deal with a living soul or a living man. They can only deal with other corporations.
This is why they're called corporations, because it means a dead body.
A corporation, yeah. So they are dealing as a corporation. They need to actually create a contract with you so they can deal with you, but they can't talk to you as a real living person because they are a fiction. The government is a corporation, and a corporation, any corporation, is a fiction. It's not real. It only exists in the world of law. Okay, and it's called colorable law. It's not common law, it's not statute, it's colorable, which means it's not real. It appears to be real, but it's not real. The same as like the government, it's a colorable government because it appears to be real, but it can't be real because it's a fiction. It's not real. It's a limited company. So these people are not, for instance, the prime minister, they're the CEO of the limited company. So it's not real. So they can't deal with you because you're living flesh and blood. So they've created this straw man, the legal fiction, the real name, and then they deal with it and spend your entire life tricking you into thinking they're talking about you.
Yeah.
Which is where it gets interesting, right? And where it gets to like, and this is where people get mixed up with common law, right? Which is, there's nothing wrong with that. I love common law. I love like when you like delve into it and, you know, study it and find out more about it. But look at it on a corporation and a contract side of things. Use contract law. They cannot deal with you unless you make a contract with them. So say, for instance, you get a parking ticket. Now we're talking about legal and lawful. On the law side, right, talking about the law, is it unlawful to park your car unless it's on top of somebody? You know, yeah, if you're not harming anyone, you haven't caused harm, you haven't broken a law, you know, you haven't stolen anything, you haven't hurt anyone, certainly haven't broke the law. So you can only deal with it on a legal basis, as in we've made up some rules, and we'll call these rules acts because they're all acting. So, you know, under the Road Traffic Act 153, I've stopped you because I want to see your driving license. Okay, so really, you know, who they're talking to. So what happens is they'll say, "What is your name?" All right. As soon as you give them your name, you've contracted.
Yep.
You are under contract.
Yep.
All right. So they're going to spiel it off, and then they'll say to you, "Do you understand?" But they're not speaking English.
Yeah, it's legalese, isn't it?
They're speaking legalese. Everything is backwards, and a lot of them. I've spoken to a few different policemen about this, and they don't even understand all of it. But they do know they have to get joined. Right, that's what they do know, and they can't deal with you unless they get joined up. Now, I'm not talking about what we're seeing right now, when literally they're pouncing on anybody walking down the beach or anything like that. You don't even get a chance to speak. All right, but then you use your knowledge when you get back to the police station, right? But they're just bang out of order right now. I mean, it's like, it's insanity, you know, just arresting people for, you know, like standing around doing anything.
Yeah,
it's mental. But you know, once you've actually say that they do arrest you, which they're not allowed to arrest people under habeas corpus anyway, you can't keep you arrested unless you have committed a crime. and they have to be able to prove the crime. That's habeas corpus. And then if they can't, they have to let you go immediately. Although I think there is a statute somewhere that says it can keep you up to 72 hours, which they probably will. But then after that, imagine that you haven't said anything to them. There's no crime committed. They have to let you go. Right? As long as you don't create a contract with them. So when they say, "What's your name?" you don't say anything. You know, you don't even have to ask them questions. They say a lot on common law, and they'll say, "Oh, do I need to answer that question?" You don't need to ask the question. just ignore them. You don't engage with them whatsoever, unless you're burgling a shop, right? And I suppose you deserve to get caught. But if you're just walking down the street, I know that there are some people in protests, and you've decided to be there, it's going to happen. But then just keep your mouth shut. When you get taken back, they'll have to let you go. If I was going to do something like that, this is not legal advice, but I would leave my telephone and my my wallet somewhere else, so they couldn't see who you were, what your name is, and then just keep your mouth shut.
I learned that a long time ago. I bought one of those books written by an ex-traffic cop saying, 67 things you need to know about motoring offences, and one of the things was never ever hand over your license if you're asked to. So that happened to me the other day, actually. You've got your license? No.
But you don't need to have a license anyway.
I know.
You only need to have a license if you're engaged in commerce. The whole world is working on commerce and contract. That's what it's all about. It's called the UCC, the Uniform Commercial Code. It's the most powerful law in the world, and it covers the world, and it all comes from, again, the Vatican, believe it or not. It is canon law, and it's all based on canon law. And everyone thinks that they have to sign something to be in a contract. You don't, especially if you're using the UCC. We can actually write a security agreement against a company or against a person and put them under UCC laws, which will contract and bind them into a contract. They don't have to sign it, as long as you write the correct sentence and use the correct code underneath, and you just write their name in. It's the same as how we sign, what you call sign, but you don't sign, you autograph. Two different things, a signature and an autograph. So if you ever have to autograph something, you would do it in red ink, okay, for representing living blood. And if you have to sign anything, you sign it in high lowercase. But the way you would sign it, if somebody said, "I've actually got a stamp, but it's just to be posh," it would be "by order of," and then your name's in, like, say, Peter Wilson, full capitals, and then underneath "by Peter Wilson," high and lowercase, but not joined up. Underneath that, "authorized representative," and then you put the little copyright thing next to it as well. So you copyright your name, full case name, and your high lowercase name. So you're declaring then that you're under UCC 1-308, all rights reserved, which means nobody can contract you for anything. So if you're ever asked anything like, "What's your name?" by the police, just say, "I'm under UCC 1-308, all rights reserved." Now, you don't say things to them. I've heard it loads of times through common law saying, "I do not consent." Don't say that, because you're saying too many words, and the words are all powerful. So, like the old saying where, "Sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me." Yes, they can, and they can tie you terribly. So when you're saying "I," as in "I do not," you're actually saying "I," yes, Old English. So you don't say "I." And when you're saying "not," "I do not," well, that "not" means to tie together. So I tie myself to you. So you've contracted.
Yeah. Wow.
So you just got to be so careful. All you got to do is say no consent, no contract, no joinder. You have no jurisdiction, because that's what it's all about. It's jurisdiction, But I mean, it's such a big subject, because a lot of people they always ask, how do you stop accessing this SysTQV trust? Where do you get all the money from? Can we get in there and get the money? You have to be careful when you're dealing with things like this, because I do know of certain people who are still in prison to this day who've went into, it's called the Treasury Direct account. That's what they have it in, and it's bonds. I'm going to do a video soon to show them how to do it. I just done it last week, and I was going to video it, and I thought I don't want to do that because I have to show all of my numbers. So what I'll do is I'm just going to explain it so people can go and do it themselves. Rather than, because I mean, you know, you have to put your birth certificate numbers in, and it comes up and it shows you your bonds.
Well, I did that on a website last year, and I put my national insurance number in, and the website said that it had been traded 370,000 times.
Yeah.
And so I've been saying since then that, you know, if they made $10 per profit per trade, I'm owed $4 million.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And then people say, where is the site? Well, I kind of lost it, but I also heard that they closed it down because loads of people were doing it.
There's still several sites out there.
Yeah, so you know, that's true, isn't it? That's what they do. They turn you into a bond, trade you like cattle.
Yeah, they do, and they trade it on every number. Your birth certificate number. They make a bond, and they're called security bonds, and they all have a CUSIP number, CUSIP, which puts it onto the stock exchange. So then these people trade on these bonds. So they buy the bonds. When I did it last week, I did mine. I did Janine's as well, and you bought loads of Chinese people bought her. I was not happy about that. So it was like this, and it showed you like who bought it and where they're from, and it was like China, Mexico, China. You know,
are those people buying them? Are they aware of what they're buying and they're trading?
I don't know. Probably not, because it's just going to be a tradable bond. It's got a CUSIP number. You know, it's an equitable bond. So they'll be invested into it to hopefully get interest. Some of them are maturity ones, so they have to keep them for a certain amount of years. A lot of them on your national insurance number are security bonds with a maturity date. So I do know that people who try to cash it in, which was before maturity, once they've found the details to do it, and end up getting done for fraud because it's not theirs. Or it might be your money, like as in you've been traded and sold, but it's not your property at that specific moment in time. So I've been trying to get the information to find out a proper letter. There's a UCC rule that you can apply. I've got the number in my head, but I can't think of it. And what you do is you use that to close the account down because you didn't agree to it because you were an infant. So it's fraud through infancy. There's a proper wording, but that's what when I've read it, it says fraud through infancy. You couldn't agree to it, and you can close it down. But what it doesn't say, I've read the rules, it doesn't say they give it to you. So I don't know if they close it down and stop them trading it and they get the money because they paid for it, or if it gets returned to you. That it doesn't specify. So I don't 100% know. I'm working and studying with a guy from America at the moment, and he does a lot of what they call return for value. So you're using your SysTQV trust. So say, for instance, you have a credit card. So I'm not talking about your own personal one, your bank. Just say you get a new one that's separate to your bank. It's nothing to do with your bank. It's not going to like take money out of your bank. He actually goes and spends on it. And then when he gets the bill, he writes on the bill, accepted for value, return for value. And then he sends it back. And then they actually, because we know they've already been paid. It's the same as a mortgage, they've already been paid. It's the same as a bank loan, they've already been paid. So when you go into say for instance, a mortgage, which is a bigger fraud than what you realized, as soon as you apply for that mortgage and you get accepted and you're going to do it, you got to go back a couple of weeks or a couple of days later to sign it. They've already went into your SysTQV trust. If it was £200,000, they've already took it out and they've already put that money in. They've already put it into their ledger. They lend you nothing, okay? And then they set it up, and you have to look at it really carefully. They set you up on a rental agreement. And then you, for the next 25 years, are paying not only that back, but you're paying interest on it, something they've never even given you, and they've been paid in full from the very beginning anyway.
Which is why it's called a mortgage, because it means death grip in French, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's a death ledger. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, it's fascinating. It's terrifying. It's annoying, and we have to get out of this. I think you and I could talk for hours about this, and I'm sure we will. But before, if maybe you come back for a second show at some point, because I'd like to go deeper into the future and what we do and things like that, and be specific. But you've started a YouTube channel yourself. What's that called, Peter?
Oh, I think. Hang on 2 seconds. I'm going to have a quick check. It's called 2021 Return to Democracy.
Oh, that's a positive title.
Yeah. So,
Ringing my bell. I'm just going to share the screen with people so they can see this. Yeah, so there's I think, can you see that? There's Peter's YouTube channel, which is really good, information. There's lots of good. Are you doing this full time? Is this what you're about now?
No. We actually own a martial arts academy.
Oh.
So hopefully, fingers crossed, we're going to be opening in 2 weeks, April 12th. We're opening back up. So it's been closed for a year.
Did you see the guy in, I think it was Chicago, who had a fitness studio, and he just kept opening up? They kept closing him down, and he was like, "That's not legal." So he kept opening up, got taken to prison, released, kept opening up. Did you not fancy that?
Well, you know what it is, we specialize teaching children more than we do have adult classes, but we've got a lot of kids. So what happened is, like, they closed it all down in March, and at the time it was just like everyone sort of like the classes were going really quiet because everyone was terrified anyway. They weren't even coming in. They were like, well,
Yeah.
they've shut down the town, everyone is shut. May as well shut because nobody here anyway.
Yeah.
So we shut it down, and then they opened it up again. I think it was August. I think it was August said we could open. So we opened, and it was like, you had to have the kids were all had to be in bubbles of 15, and we worked it out. We had to speak to everyone. We'd spent a few months doing like Zoom classes online with them, and so we'd sorted it all out. And then it was October, November or something. They went, "Oh, you got to close again." And now my academy, it's a full-time academy, and I've got this building inside of another building, and the whole area is an old school, an old primary school. So they divided it up, and there's a cafe over there, there's a beauty shop there, but most of it is a nursery. And I'm talking about literally, you can see the picture behind me. It's about like 5 feet away. My door to the nursery door is about 5 feet. So what they said was, we have to close, but the nursery's open. So the same children that are in that room, and there's 30 of them sitting in a room with no social distancing, 10 staff in there, no masks anywhere, right? But they're not allowed to walk out of that door into my room when there was like limited numbers. There's only 2 staff, and our room is 3 times the size of theirs. So I says, "No, I'm staying open." So I wrote like a little note, like on my Facebook page, to my students, and look, it's going to run as normal. We're in a school. We are a school. They said children can continue training. We're going to run the kids' classes. So I got this phone call, and it was like from the environmental health. Now, I've never dealt in any kind of cafe businesses or anything like that. So the only time I'd ever heard of an environmental health was off the film The Ghostbusters. I'm like, what? Why on earth has environmental health got to do with me? But that's what they've put it all under, isn't it?
Yeah.
And actually pressured, now the government have pressured the local government on the environmental health side to control who opens and who doesn't. So anyway, they were like saying, "Oh, you can't say that on Facebook, you're staying open." I'm like, "Oh," I just ignored them. I had an argument with them on the phone, and I thought, I'm still doing it. So then, but the thing is, we're running kids' classes. And the kids we have are from like 4 and 5 year olds, some of them. So we've got them divided in the classes by age. And then I'm running this class, and there was only about 8 in the class, right? And we've got them we use these pads about this big to kick and punch. So what I've done to make it easy when these rules are going on and everything's filmed, all my classes are all filmed from CCTV. So I've got them sat on these individual pads, so they're all spaced out properly and everything. And there's this smashing on the door. I thought someone's trying to smash the door down because the nursery's locked, everything else is closed. So I close the doors. I don't want anyone, because if they come in, they could go in any building and smashing up the cafe or anything. So everything's shut. So and it goes out. And there's these two clowns in a costume, right? One of them is supposedly a female, although I'm not 100% sure. And the attitude was off this scale. It was crazy. And I said, look, I said, I don't want you barging in. I've got young children in here, I said, like, if you want to come in, I'll show you. I said, but like, take that hat off, just like, don't look so. And gosh, honestly, trying to bulging eyes out there, look like PCP eyes, this just, she's bursting in. She said, I want to see evidence. And I was like, it's not a drug raid, man, And anyway, I wanted to go and I had to serve them some notice. I thought, well, I'm going to serve you notice here. So I went in to get the paper, and she comes storming in, and Janine's there, like saying, "Oh, just say hello to them," like, and the children waving, saying hello. And this woman's like going bright red, anger pouring out of her. So like, and I just picked up the papers and walked back out into the corridor again. So she's left standing on her own. So like, eventually she followed me back out, and this guy there never looked at me, didn't speak or anything. The partner. Right, and I served them the notice, and she's like, "Oh, this isn't legal," blah blah blah, and they threatened to arrest me there and then. And I just said, look, you just got to stop being childish and just leave. But and they did leave. But what I was thinking is, like, if they come back and they're going to do that in front of, and I said to them, I says, your attitude is disgusting. Says you're talking 4 and 5-year-old children. I'm teaching them manners, respect, how to have a good quality life, and you're walking in, supposed to be authority, and you're acting like that in front of them. What kind of attitude is that? She went, well, I think it's disgusting. You're putting them in danger. I was like, danger? I said, well, you got to go. You got to leave. But I didn't want to have anyone like the children there if they were going to come back and act like that in front of the children. I wasn't bothered. You caught me off, locked me up. I couldn't give them monkeys. But the parents obviously got to come pick the kids up. They're like, oh, where's Peter? Oh, he's being dragged off by the police. And they're like, oh, let's take them back here again. So, I mean, from me, right? I just don't want to put the kids in that kind of situation, but the police didn't care.
No, well, we really are in a Monty Python movie.
Oh, ridiculous, man. I seen somebody shared a video with me. There was a guy in the Isle of Man, I don't know if you've seen it, and he was encouraging people to swim for their mental health. Yeah. Okay. And they're talking about him, he looked, what, about 60? The older man, they arrested him, took him off. But the thing is, somebody was filming it and saying, why have you arrested him? They went, well, I haven't arrested him. He goes, well, why have you put handcuffs on him? And he was in his bathing trunks, nothing else on. And then they carted him off. And he was encouraging people to like get out and be active. There's only about 5. There wasn't 1,000 having a protest. Honestly, it's the lunacy is beyond. And some people say, oh, well, you should have done that. The police are right.
Oh,
yeah.
I just don't understand those people. So this straw man thing, I think, is extremely important, and I know there's loads more I would love to go into with, but I've not got time today. So
we do have remedy. We do have remedy.
Go on then.
Yeah, you can separate yourself from your legal fiction. Okay. So and then acknowledge the legal fiction. So it depends which line you want to go on, but your legal fiction can be classed as crown copyright. So you've got to be careful what you call it and what you try and say you are. But you can separate yourself, and you can do what's called a UCC1 financial statement, which is an official legal government document. And also you can do a security agreement, which controls the assets of the straw man, call it that, all right? Your legal fiction. So your legal fiction is set up there as owning your house, for instance. But you set up the security agreement through the UCC1 agreement, 2 ties together, so that you, as a living, breathing, flesh and blood creature of God, control and have first lien, L-I-E-N, first lien on that corporation. So if anybody wants to take you to court for debt, as in the corporation, because they can't talk to me, they have to talk to my corporation. You can take the corporation to court, but I have to get paid first because I have a £10 million lien on that company name. So I am first lien. So I get paid before you. That's the simple version of it, but that's how you do it, you know.
I was watching one of your videos on the UCC thing last week, and I was just too tired to get my head around it at the time, which is why I wanted to speak to you. Have you laid this out like in a written format for people, or do you do it as a service, or is it all in the videos? Or how are you? And what's driving you?
I am gonna have to do it. Like, so look, you know, you're gonna have to like sort something out, and I'll help you. Like, I'll pay me some time and I'll do it, because at the minute, you know, I wake up in the morning. Open up, see the laptop, I just shut it and put it away. Oh, there's like 100 emails.
No, it's the same for me, and it's really it gets worse. But as the YouTube channel gets bigger, it gets worse. Yeah, and it's a real shame, because you want to help everybody, but it absolutely exhausts you. It's one of the issues that we have.
But what and I've done some good videos on there that actually show them how to do forms, but you know, I still get literally hundreds of messages saying, "What about this? What about that?" What? So, and I understand, you know, it's scary, and everything is quite a scary time. But what I'm going to do as well, I'm going to do maybe not a video of it, or tie it to a video where it's like step 1, 2, 3, 4. This is what you need to do first. This is what you need to do second, and do it out so it's like laid out like that, you know. Because you've got your family to look after as well. You can do that for your children. You can remove your children from the system, you know, through an addendum, and put them on. It's called becoming a secured party creditor. That's what it's called, a secured party creditor, because we are all now set up with this legal fiction. We are all debtors, which is why you always would lose a court case, because they're all sworn to the crown. So the solicitors are literally sworn to the crown to make you lose. So they want to into your SISTQV trust. But you're a debtor. You have no rights. You know, your company, your full caps name is a debtor, and it owes money, and they're going to take it no matter what. You know, so all your parking tickets, these fines. It's like, oh, do you know what? We're going to do this, and because these masks and everything like that, you know, they did the same for the bubonic plague. It was identical, 6 feet apart. You know, wear the masks. It was exactly the same. And so they've just done it again. Now, when they're doing these tests, why did they ramp up the tests, and why are they giving the children these tests? Right? They get between 36 and 39,000 pounds for every positive test they get, and it comes out of your SISTQV trust. So who's motivated to get them positive tests? So why were they ramping it up to 45 amplifications when they were told only do 25? I want more tests. I want more than £39,000, please.
And there's other elements to that as well, which I won't say on this channel. Yeah, I mean, it's really interesting to get this angle on this subject, because it's all connected to everything. It's connected spiritually, it's connected financially, it's connected physically, and all our futures depend upon us gaining this knowledge and starting to claim our power back from these usurpers, I suppose you could call them. They're evil beyond belief. You know what gets me the most, Peter, is when I think about my ancestors and how they were raped without ever even knowing any of this. That's what really gets me. And I think the time is, this is it. No more now.
They go even further back than that, talking about like the financially raped. But you know, we've got an obelisk not far from where we live. We live in the Northumberland coast, southeast Northumberland, and all this land was all given in just after 1066 to a family called the de Lavals, which is the French family that helped William conquer England. And he was sent here. Who do you think sent him? Who gave him permission to come?
The Pope.
Yeah, papal bull go and invade England because this guy Harold Godwinson, he's not related to anybody we know. So he's got voted in by the Wiccan, right, to become king of England because Edward the Confessor forgot to have a baby. So we have to like go and do something about it because this guy's going to run off and own England and he's got no ties to the Vatican. So you go and invade him and then we'll split the deeds. So these guys come over and I know it might sound silly, but it's literally that. So like, look, whenever you come and help me, we'll kill all them and we'll spread their lands out through you. You can have it. So this family, the de Lavals, now they call it, the village is called Seaton Delaval. So they pronounce it Delaval, but it's like de Laval. They've got this huge big house up there. And it's like, you know, as you got the stately home things, it's beautiful and everything like that. And these were supposed to be the worst hedonistic, crazy people, you know, all the stories going back. But behind it is an obelisk pointing straight up there, exactly the same as what they've got in the city of London, the same as what they've got in Washington, D.C., and the same as what they've got in the Vatican City. All right. What is that?
You know what it
Nimrod's
is?
penis.
It's a penis.
Nimrod's penis.
Yeah, that's right.
Mm-hmm.
I was explaining that to my kids yesterday about Dublin. They've got this giant steel one in the middle of Dublin now, and I said, what is that?" And they go, "Oh, it's just." I said, "No, it's a penis."
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, you know, up there, and it's like it's obviously very secluded, you know, like countryside and everything. Yeah, she used to run around it as a kid. They were playing. Apparently, if you ran around it, you held your breath, a witch came out. And anyway, but you know, there must have been like loads of sacrifices and everything, and little babies and girls getting kidnapped from all around, which have been tiny little like shacks and villages and all here, you know, and it's everything. There is no such thing as a coincidence. Going back for like 1666 with the fire and all of that, you know, it all ties right into what we're getting put through now.
Absolutely, and that never stopped. The kidnapping and stealing of children and sacrifice. That's still going on now, which is why people like us are on YouTube, because we've had enough of it.
Exactly, which is again is you know the reason you said why are you doing it, you know, is it like full time? It's like it's not, but the more people that we can get to know this type of thing, how corrupt the government is, you know, and they all know, you know, that these like, you know, they're sending like what's his name, Ricky Sunak or something like that, you know, and he's saying, oh, well, we're going to give £1 million to this, 1 million to that. That's all coming out of your CQV trust, not his, right? It's not coming out. Your tax doesn't get paid, doesn't do that. All of your tax, I did a trace on the tax. You put your own national insurance number in. I did a trace the other week as well. And it goes to mine, goes to North Jersey in the United States. It all goes to the United States. All your tax. It's collected by HMRC, which is owned by the IRS, and the IRS is a Puerto Rican company. They're all private limited companies. So everything, all of it all gets collected, eventually ends up in the IRS in Puerto Rico. No one in Puerto Rico, because they all work for the same company, no one pays tax because they collect everyone else's. And then once it's all in there, it all gets sent to the Philippine Islands, owned by the Crown Corporation. Not to be mistaken with the Queen, but she is part of it, right? The royal family, the Crown Corporation, which is like all of them. But even them are underneath them 13 families that you were talking about before. And then it all goes to the Philippine Islands, and that's where they distribute it where it needs to go. It's just a mafia. It's just a huge blood cult mafia.
That's all it is. It's the mob. It's a satanic mob that have worked with demons, literally. That's what I've learned. And that's what this is all about. This great awakening is for us to realize this, I think.
Yeah.
Because
that's why I do it, you know, get more people aware of what's going on and like how you can fight against it, even just that little bit. So you do your UCC1 and separate yourself from there, and then you can start talking. I've taught a lot of people who've had run-ins with the police and been able to send them on the way, and debt collectors and everything.
Well, yeah, if you want to use me as a case study to do a live webinar to show people where they can ask questions, I'm happy to do it because I need to do this. Absolutely need to do this.
No, I'll be good. I'll be good. The more we can help, the better, though. You know, so the more people that sort of like get that little bit of knowledge, and you know, some woman, she was actually in some holiday homes in Plymouth, Yeah, Plymouth, Cornwall, anyway, down that way. And someone rang the police and complained because it was a holiday home, all of them, all the homes, no one was allowed in. So they had went down in this home. Someone actually rang the police to complain. I mean, come on, you've got nothing better to do with your life. And the police arrived and said, "What are you doing here? You're not allowed to be here." And she said, "UCC 1308, all rights reserved, no consent, no contract, no joiner. You've got no jurisdiction. Leave." And they were like, "Ah," and ran away, left her. So, you know, and you just got to like learn a little bit. But obviously, she'd separated herself, so they know the police they can only deal with the fiction. They cannot deal with the real person.
Yeah.
And you've got to get the knowledge of how to cope with it.
Well, you know, I can't tell you how relevant that is to me today because I've got a situation that involves that very thing. But anybody watching this should be, hopefully you're starting to get cross about this because, you know, it's the fact that people just don't believe any of this that makes me laugh.
Well, you know, you just need sort of like, people must have, if they looked at something that's happened to them, you know, look at, in fact, I tell you what, look at your tax statement. What is it? How is it written? Look at your driving license. How is it written? Look at your passport. You know, it's like anything that's got to do with the government. There's nothing written in your real name. None of it is actually you. So when you get your council tax through the door, it doesn't say your name. That's a corporation name. I know people that get these little sticky pads where, you know, like an address sticky thing, and they peel them off, and whenever they get any letter through the door that's got full capitals, or now they're getting slide, instead of they put your title on, Mr., Miss, that's still a corporation, and they don't capitalize the full name, but it's still a corporation. With a title, it's a title, it's a corporation. And any letter that comes through, they don't open them, they just stick this over so they can't see the address. And they just put on not known, return, it's already printed, not known, return to sender, blah, 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 and they all go off. And we know, like, personally, people that literally, like, never ever paid bills. One guy was speaking to, I've got to get him on a channel as well, a chat. For 10 years, he's never paid a single bill. No tax, no council tax, no water, no electric, no gas, nothing. Because they can't talk to him. They can only talk to the straw man, so go and find him then and take the money off him. So it works.
Well, amazing. I really appreciate your time today, Peter. I'll put a link to your YouTube. There'll be a link in the description to the YouTube channel. Go and learn as much as you can about this. And can me and you catch up again soon?
Definitely. Yeah. Just well, you've got the email now anyway, haven't you? So, you know, use that one, you know, and I'll reply, and I'll give you my phone number as well. You can chat, just if you need to text, be quicker.
All right, brilliant.
Because sometimes when I open it, I see the emails, I close it and throw it away, you know?
I'm the same. But yeah, that's the reason why I've not got a lot of time. I've got all these other things to do. Part-time
podcast. I was watching you before, mate. I was watching it.
Oh, wait. I mean, part-time podcast, a full-time dad and business, you know, so we do our best. But thank you very much, Peter. I'll have a great weekend. I'll be in touch soon.
Brilliant. Same to you. Take care.
Cheers. Take